Okay, so today we're taking a look at a budget release by the name of Brotherhood United. Citing Mercenary Kings and Metal Slug's influences, that was more than enough for me to jump on board and give this budget 2D side-scrolling shooter a shot. The question though, can it live up to its quality influences, or does it miss on this lofty goal? Well, with that I want to thank the publishers for this review code. Hit that subscribe button if you love the Switch as much as we do. Why not hit that like button while you're at it? And then in the comments below, what's your favourite 2D side-scrolling shooter on the Switch right now? With that, let's get started. So it's about as simple as it gets, and I'm sure you're not going to be surprised by that, but here's the general idea. You're part of a gang, or brotherhood, and one of your friends gets kidnapped in the opening moments of the game. Basically, you gotta go save him and kill everyone along the way. It appears from the enemy design it has something to do with like aliens, mechs, and even some like human enemies, but it never really goes into much more detail. It's not deep though, but it gets the job done. It sets up the shooting. There's really nothing more to the story than outside of like the occasional one line here and there. You're coming here for the shooting basically, you know, it's a genre trait as well, and at this price, $8.99 in the US, £7.49 in the UK, or €8.29, did you really expect Stallone meets Shakespeare? This one though, for story, it's based over 20 levels, you're going to be facing 8 bosses as you proceed, and you're probably going to end up with like maybe a couple of hours of gameplay if you don't rush the experience. So gameplay wise, the core concept is, as per its influences, run and gun as more and more enemies come your way in waves. And that's really about it. There's the occasional bit of platforming as well. Controls, it's the typical mechanics, nothing here is going to surprise you. You know, there's a jump, a roll dodge, grenade throw, countless weapons to pick up, and a knife that kicks in automatically when you're close enough to an enemy. Actually, it's also worth mentioning here, you do get to control a mech suit for a very, very brief moment, but it is kind of weak, I will say. It adds nothing to the gameplay except for basically give you what I think was slightly more power, it never really tells you, and it makes your character sprite bigger. The core concept though, overall it's fine, it works, you'll slay the enemies, it's a good start. Sadly, concept and execution are two different things, and it wasn't long before I noticed a few issues on the control front, and that, it's a big one really. There's like this weird delay after every move you make, you know, you can't roll and then go straight into a jump. There's like this split second where you can't line up that next movement, you can't press the next input and get a response. Likewise, this is the same thing with the jump. When you land, you're actually going to freeze in place for like the tiniest of moments before you start moving again. It's not game breaking, but a game like this to me should be just like fast, manic and smooth, and this definitely took some getting used to. You know, waiting for that moment before you kick into moving again is just such a strange idea. It's like when a Netflix show crashes for a second. It's, you know, no one wants it, so why would you put it in here? Now, once I did get my head around it, I will say for the most part I did enjoy the controls, but also it never felt natural to me. I was always kind of compensating for this issue as I was playing. So let's talk enemies, and I want to say for a budget title, it does a decent job of mixing enemies up here, with like a constantly rotating type of enemy, and then of course an increasing level of challenge. That's either they take more damage, or they're just throwing more on screen at you. From the very beginning though, this could have easily been, you know, just the same enemy type over and over again. And yes, you're going to see the same ones a lot throughout, but they always put something new into the mix for each level for you to discover, from like flying mechs to bug-like aliens to like just varying takes on the drone soldiers with bigger and badder ass weapons. There's not a ton of designs or anything, but they've made a conscious decision of always adding just something new in here. On top of this then, to pad out the experience, we get some brothers to save throughout the levels, a co-op mode that did work absolutely great, decent number of weapons for you to experiment with, health and armor pickups, and a small but okay character editor to play with, which is a nice little touch in my opinion, even if it is, you know, just super basic, just like clothing, hair, helmets, that's about it. Now problems, it has some for sure outside of the slightly weird stutters in the controls, and it's mainly because this game lacks any real information to the player to support what is happening or what you are doing. The core like game itself is fine, you know, the combat works, the enemies work, but then there's a lot of other stuff going on that just makes no sense. Like, great, it's got a scoring system, and you're going to see it at the end of every level. You know, I want to replay a game to beat my top score. I love that sort of gameplay. The problem here is the game never tells you why you got that high score, how you got that high score, and it won't ever tell you how to get points. Then the reload system, it's like Gears of War, you'll have to like hit the brake in the bar to help you reload, or at least it does something positive. I just don't know what it is. What does it achieve? Is it just like a minutely faster reload time and that's it? If that's the case, honestly, it's kind of pointless. But maybe it's giving me, more bullets. Maybe it's making my bullets stronger. Who knows? Do you know? I wish I could tell you because the game never told me. Boss encounters then, these epic moments too, they're huge, they fill the screens, you got tanks, big ass bees, like a ton of different robots and things. But a health bar would have been really super useful here. Just give me an idea of how I'm progressing. How cautious do I need to be before I'm going to defeat them? Or can I kind of just go like, crazy and just charge straight into them? My last couple of complaints are minor, but I have no idea what these symbols on screen mean. I think, or at least I thought it was the number of lives I had, but it never seems to go down when I die. I get 3 lives per level and I never really, they just kind of stay there. Then the general life system overall, as I said, 3 lives, and then if you die, you actually restart the level all over again. And I'm cool with that. It's old school, no complaints from me. But on the game over screen, there's no continue button. You'll have to go back to the main menu, then to start game, then hit continue, and you'll jump back into that level. It just seems like common sense to me that you would have added a continue button here so we can just jump straight back in and not kind of break that consistent experience, that excitement. Look, complaints aside, the core concept itself is fine, and if they could smooth up the controls just slightly, I'd be actually happy with what we get at this price point. It's a decent take on its influences, but it's just lacking in polish and under development, and that's where it really stumbles pretty hard. The controls for me, that's the big one, that's the main focus, but if you can give us a little explanation here and there as well, it would definitely go a long way. So visually, I do generally like the look, or well, I like the idea at least. It's pixel art to the extreme sense, where every single pixel can be made out. Characters, though, they generally look decent. The weapons, for the most part, look how they should, and there's a nice enough colour palette to keep things somewhat interesting, even if I will say I would have kind of preferred less grey in here. Issues, though, the pixels are so damn big on the TV. I actually found the opening moments and the text boxes and the occasional line here and there in the game, they're really hard to read because of how big these pixels are. Also, the environments, they could do just like a little bit more variety in their design. Yes, it changes every few levels, but honestly, it's not really enough, and one grey location blends into the next grey location. Also, I will say this game, this is really weird. It's trying extremely hard to be, 18 plus or R rated, and I'm all for that normally. But here, I just don't really get it. Mercenary Kings was like teen, I think. Metal Slug, same thing, like teen. None of them do this, and here to achieve it in game, all they've really done is added like a poor looking blood spray effect that looks like, the spray paint tool in Paint, and then like this kind of graphic opening where someone's head explodes when you press start. I don't know if it's worth it just for those 2 little things to limit your audience. I don't know if it definitely doesn't add anything to the experience, to the game, and yeah, just a weird decision. Overall, visually it's fine, but you ain't going to be amazed. A low detail, basic pixel look with some nice enemy and hero designs. They're let down by repetitive backgrounds and an unnecessary push to be R-rated, which basically comes down to a menu that's cool, but just doesn't add anything to the experience. I think they could have spent their time more wisely and just kind of like, finishing this game off a little bit more. Okay, audio, this will be super quick. Some basic effects, jump sounds, dialogue or grunts, should I say, the bullets, and then a soundtrack that's somewhere between chiptune and rock. It's cheesy, it's a little bit repetitive, and it's also a little low in the overall mix, but I didn't mind it at all. It does what it needs to, and yeah, that's audio. Told you, quick. So overall, what starts out promising quickly reveals its problems and quirks. Yes, the combat works fine and the enemies are fun, especially the big ass bosses and the character design just generally. There's a good game in here, I have no doubt, but weird controller quirks without like stutter and a lack of education to the player, a high score system, but how does it work? Or some bosses, but am I doing damage? There's no health bars. A cool reload system, but what does it actually do? Those are questions we shouldn't have to be, curious over. The game should tell us that pretty much from the get-go. Tell me how the high score system works, because then I understand how to improve. It makes me want to go back, and there I introduce to you replayability. Yes, maybe I am being harsh, it is like super budget after all, and I still had some fun with this one, but you know what's almost worse than a bad game? Seeing a game stumble with those last few things and then miss. Today I'm giving this one a slightly above average 6 out of 10 because the price point honestly makes me a little bit more forgiving, plus as a fan of the genre and with a couple of hours of gameplay here, you know, I'm okay with that. I wouldn't regret the small price I'm paying. With that, thanks so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you love the Switch as much as we do. Same thing with that like button if we helped you out. And yeah, leave me a comment with your favourite 2D shooter in the comments below. I'll see you all on the next video.